Today I want to talk about how to get out of magical thinking while doing distance healing. So my definition of magical healing is not wonder and awe and reverence. I think that's a good thing to have regularly. But magical thinking means that it just happens by magic. We just do this and Suzanne's awesome and people get better from cancer. And that's not how it works. Okay, even though I'm awesome and people do get better from cancer, that's not the methodology. There's actually a way that it works. And distance healing is either psychic or spiritual, and because we're not in person with people, right? And when we talk about methodology and about cause and effect, I would say that the psychic realm is all about cause and effect. You're doing something to manipulate somebody else for better or for worse. And it works, and it's happening, but it's not as high as spiritual healing, which is more in the realm of thinking and in the realm of levels of awareness that you can cultivate with a lot of practice, or you've already cultivated them because of trauma or something. And then the higher levels, and again, this is just a metaphor, you can't really, any discussion, I think, of the realms above thinking is metaphor or philosophy, because you're talking about something that words can't touch. So please don't take me too literally and kind of enter into this metaphor with me, because you can be a spiritual scientist. You can scientifically observe, objectively observe things that aren't physical objects. So we already know this. Hi Melinda, hi Dorothy, hi Bobby, hey Louisa. Welcome, welcome. Hi Deb, welcome. Glad to have you here. So we know this. How do we investigate physical phenomenon? Well, so like if you were doing a physics experiment or a chemistry experiment, you could like see how fast it takes to dissolve a teaspoon of salt in almost freezing water versus boiling water. And you would determine that heat is definitely a factor in how fast salt dissolves. And you could study this, right? And lots of physical experiments with science that help us do things better, because we start learning the causes and the effects of the causes. All right, so in my octave resonance healing approach, there's like 4 levels that I split reality into, just so we can not take on everything all at once. So on the life force level, we are the research that we could do is that we notice we feel better with sleep, or we notice that if a plant looks like it's withering, it needs something. You can kind of tell from the life force of either yourself or other living things that something's needed. Give that more sunshine. And this isn't really there's something living about it, but you can still examine it, and there's causes and effects in this life force level. Now, if we go up to the emotions, you can also study emotions. Social science is all about that, right? You can understand the science of motivation, the science of positive thinking, the science of negative thinking. There's all sorts of really great research questions that can be investigated with the emotions. And then we're getting a little more etheric, which is where we tend to say, oh, that's just thinking, or oh, that's just my imagination. But we can actually carefully observe the world of the imagination. And what we notice is that if we imagine some certain images, they create different emotions and life forces, and maybe even different physical responses depending on the images that we choose. So, and then we can go up higher to the part of us that can think about the images. So I'm going up, 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 up. And the thoughts that we think can create different images, that create different emotions, that create different responses to life, that actually change what's going on. There's actually been research shown that you can affect telescopes. You can really, the acuity of a telescope depending on different things. So it's some really interesting things about how these higher levels of these less dense levels of reality very, very, very much affect what's down below. Some words for, okay, so most of us can think, right? And we can observe our own thinking process. We can observe with our thoughts, our emotions. We can observe all of that. So that sort of is okay with science. Like, okay, I can observe something so I can like understand the cause and effect. But what if the healing we are looking for is actually in a level that's beyond cause and effect? Does that mean we just revert to magical thinking, or does that call on something different? And I would say that you can develop what's called, Rudolf Steiner calls it sense-free thinking, and basically expand your ability to perceive. So right now you might be able to perceive, like we talked before about using gratitude as a perceptive device rather than as just something that you do. So that's an example of a spiritual perceptive thing that you can cultivate, and there's lots of that stuff. All right, but really anything that you perceive and you label is by definition in duality. And I suggest that the metaphor and the idea that gives me the most mileage is to pretend, I think that's the right word, that the healing comes from a place, a dimension of existence that is non-dual, that doesn't have light and dark and good and bad and up and down, that can't like make anything happen. It just touches us and the information is there and we're able to integrate it if we're able to. So then how do we scientifically think about something as ephemeral as distance healing? What we do is we manage, with our egos, by the way, everything downstream from non-duality. We notice, and as I'm talking about this, in a few minutes we're going to go into the actual distance healing. So I'm going to give you a little list of things that you could possibly observe as enhancing or detracting from the distance healing, and then see what happens. And I know that the big thing is like, oh, you're trying to manage spirituality, and yes and no, okay? It's always a paradox. I'm managing without managing, so just hang tight. All right, so there are certain physical things that we can do that absolutely affect the upstream stuff. So having a glass of water handy, having some hair of the person that you want to be, actually touching someone, that actually helps. It really does help. And there's reasons and mechanisms for that. The emotions, opening our heart to the possibility of healing, I think is a useful tool that actually enhances distance healing. And it, oh, I forgot, I left out the life force level. So, being well hydrated and having a good enough sleep is a nice enhancement of distance healing. Emotionally, opening your heart to the possibility of healing and really feeling your hope and your gratitude for being here definitely helps. Closing your heart, feeling closed off, actually has a negative placebo effect. So don't do that. And then with the images, having an image of your own healing or of the healing of others, it helps that non-dual information have a place to fit into this funnel that brings it into the physical. All right. And then the thoughts. What thought can I think? What can I be aware of right now that if I was aware of would enhance this distance healing? And that's actually a question. And so we can scientifically ask, if I'm asking a question when I'm doing distance healing, does that work better than if I'm directing my focus like you will heal now. And at least in my style of distance healing, being in the question works better. So it's not just a personal preference. I've developed that preference because I found that it works better. All right, it's more open. It's not bossing God around, and it actually allows for the complexity of the subtle energies to work. All right, so right now, I'd like you to ask what you can do physically that will enhance this distance healing, and you can kind of observe if it made a difference. Okay, what can you do with your life force? If nothing else, you can take a deep breath, and you can notice if you feel like that helps you. What can you do emotionally? I recommend opening your heart, that you could, try something a little different too. What can you do with your imagination? In my style, I like to do spinning meditations. I find that it creates a sensation of flow in my life force, and I feel like that's helpful. It isn't, the problem is creating a rule form, and it's just helpful today. There might be other times when having very still images would actually enhance the distance healing. So you can't have a lot of rules, but you can have awareness. And what kind of thinking can you do right now, other than just listening to my words? Or maybe that's what you want to do that will enhance this distance healing. Okay. And if you want, before we actually start the distance healing, you can maybe type in the chat anything that that you're going to bring with you to this healing. Thank you. All right, so if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to stop the YouTube recording soon, and if you want to join us over on Facebook, it's the Spirit Gate Cancer Support Facebook group. And if you're here listening on Facebook, please go join the YouTube channel and watch it over there as well. Comment and let's get some. I think the groups enhance the distance healing, and I think we're here because we care about somebody a lot, or we care about ourselves a lot, and we want to heal. And little things like that, you can observe if they make a difference. So I don't really want you to believe that going over and putting your name over on YouTube is going to somehow help. Like, actually notice if it helps. You don't have to do it if it doesn't help. It'll help subtly though, so you'll have to notice subtle things. Maybe with gratitude, that will help you perceive if it's actually something that is helping you or not. Okay, good. That was actually pretty profound what I just said, so you can rewind that part. Okay, off we go. Let's do the healing.